so let's talk about something that's, well, it's one of the most painful, misunderstood decisions a person can ever make, and that's cutting ties with family. It's a choice that gets buried under so much stigma, but the real story, it's way more complicated than most of us think. I want you to imagine something for a second. You're at a friend's place for Thanksgiving. Their family's there, they're loud, a little messy, maybe arguing over something completely ridiculous, and you're just watching. And then it hits you, like a punch to the gut. This thought, I don't have this anymore. It's this deep, quiet ache, A feeling of being on the outside looking in, even in a room full of people. And then it happens. Right between a bite of stuffing and some awkward small talk, someone turns to you, all smiles, totally innocent, and they ask the question. So, where's your family? And just like that, it feels like all the air gets sucked out of the room. Everyone's waiting for an answer you don't really know how to give. That moment right there, being the Thanksgiving outsider, that's really the core of what we're going to get into, because it perfectly captures this huge misunderstanding we have as a society about family estrangement. It shines a light on this silent, heavy burden that people in this situation carry around. See, when you don't have a simple, neat answer, society just kind of fills in the blanks for you. We have this whole cultural script, right? Family is everything. Blood is thicker than water. So if you're the one who steps away, the automatic assumption is, well, it must be your fault. You must be selfish, or ungrateful, or just plain cold. But what if that's completely backwards? What if we've been reading the whole story wrong? The assumption is that the person who leaves is the one who gave up. But the reality? The reality is often that they were the ones who tried the hardest, the ones who held on the longest, the ones who loved desperately, and only after trying absolutely everything else, finally had to make the impossible choice to save themselves. And here's the thing about that choice. It's almost never a big explosion. It's not some dramatic, movie-style fight that ends it all. Nope. It's more like a slow, quiet falling apart, a gradual crumbling that happens over years, sometimes even decades. And look, that's not just a hunch, it's actually backed up by research. A guy named Dr. Karl Pillemer at Cornell University, he studied this stuff for years. And what he found, again and again, is that estrangement is rarely, if ever, about one big fight. It's a final stop at the end of a very long, very painful road. This whole journey, this erosion, it tends to follow a pattern. It starts with years of just hoping things will change. Then you have the conversations, right? The same ones over and over that just go nowhere. You wait for apologies that never come. You see the same hurtful patterns play out again and again, until finally you hit a tipping point. The point where the cost of staying, it just becomes unbearable. It actually becomes more painful than the thought of leaving. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's not a sudden flood. It's a slow drip, drip, drip of pain, of being dismissed, of feeling invisible. And each little drip might seem like no big deal by itself, but over time, man, it just soaks through everything until the whole foundation is just gone. So, what is that cost? What is that slow drip that makes staying impossible? Well, it usually boils down to one incredibly powerful, corrosive feeling. The name for it is emotional invalidation. Basically, it's when your own feelings, your own reality are constantly shot down. It's being told you're too sensitive, you're just overreacting, or my personal favorite, that's not how it happened. When you hear that enough, it just starts to chip away at who you are. It makes you doubt yourself. And what that does is it creates this quiet, constant feeling that the real you isn't welcome at the table, that love has strings attached. So what do? You learn to shrink. You make yourself smaller. You hide the parts of you that might be too much or inconvenient. You end up just performing a version of yourself that you think they'll accept, just so you can feel like you belong. So once someone finally makes that impossible decision to step away, what happens next? Well, it's not simple. It's this messy, complicated cocktail of feelings. You've got grief, you've got guilt, and then you have this surprising wave of relief. Let's start with the grief, because it's a really specific kind of grief. You're not always mourning the family you actually had. You're mourning the family you should have had, the one you desperately needed and wished for. You're grieving the what could have been, that feeling of normal you saw in other people's houses but never got to experience yourself. And then, of course, there's the guilt. Oh, the guilt.
It's that little voice whispering, did you try hard enough? Maybe you should have been more forgiving. Maybe you were just too needy. But I want you to hear this because it's a huge shift in perspective. That guilt doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you're a person who cared deeply. It's proof you had so much love to give. It just sadly didn't have a safe place to land.
And mixed in with all that heavy stuff is something that can feel really unexpected. And that's relief. Just quiet. A profound sense of quiet. For maybe the first time in your entire life, the noise is gone. The constant tension, the walking on eggshells, that bracing yourself for the next jab. It's just stopped.
This is such a perfect way to put it, right? It's like you've been carrying something so heavy for so long, you completely forgot you were even carrying it. You don't realize the weight until it's gone. And in that newfound quiet, you can finally hear yourself think again. You can actually feel your own feelings without all the static.
Okay, so when you put all of this together, the slow erosion, the invalidation, the grief, you start to see a very different picture. This isn't about someone giving up. This is about self-preservation. It's someone making the absolute hardest choice they'll ever have to make, to simply survive. And let me be crystal clear about this. This is not the easy way out. There is no easy way out of a situation like this. It's choosing between two types of pain. The slow, soul-crushing pain of staying in a toxic environment, or the sharp, lonely pain of leaving. It's a calculated risk, choosing one kind of suffering over another, all in the hope that you might, just might, find some peace on the other side. And that really cuts to the heart of it, a relationship that's built on resentment, on obligation, on you having to perform to be loved. That's not love. It's a deal. It's a transaction. And sometimes you just have to walk away from a bad deal. So ultimately, that's the real story here. It's not a story about cold, selfish people. It's a story about people who loved and loved hard. People who tried for years to fix something that was broken. And in the end, they were pushed to an impossible choice. Keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm, or choose yourself. And they chose themselves. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. In a world that's so quick to judge this decision, what if we've got it completely wrong? What if choosing to walk away from a relationship that's slowly erasing you isn't selfish at all? What if it's the bravest thing you could ever do?